On fire like a Mack truck tire. That's the way we can start our Sunday mindset sessions. Tony Meredith and Luke Moroney here, just to bring you a little bit of gold each and every Sunday on the mindset that we need to be working on for ourselves. Get ourselves ready for the week, get ourselves progressing, get ourselves to the next level. How are you doing, Tony?
Luke, I'm doing well, thank you, mate. Now, I need to let everyone know that this week I didn't have ice cream for 4 days. That's the first time in about 10 years. So 4 days without ice cream and chocolate. It was incredibly tough. I was like a bear with a sore head, but I did it. I did it for 4 days. Mind you, I got stuck into it on Friday and Saturday. But nonetheless, 4 days in about 10 years. So I was very pleased with that.
Adam and Sean and Kelly, good to have you all on. Thinking about our mindsets on this Sunday morning. Tony's talking about 4 days without ice cream. I can't profess to be without something for 4 days, but I am with something for many days, including my running and some other things that I've ventured to do for myself. Tony, we're talking about conversations today. I think it's a big one that we're all involved with in this day and age, especially in Australia, where we've got lockdowns. So we find ourselves often getting caught up in the vortex of the COVID conversation. And I think this can be spread out to, if there's weather events, bushfires in the past, catastrophes around the world wars, whatever it might be. There are negative events that fill our lives. And we often get stuck in that grind of the repetitive nature and go down and down and down into that deeper, feelings about how things aren't going so well for us. On a general sense, how do you see those conversations and how do you see them playing out, Tony?
Well, for me, we're going to talk about some solutions, but look, they're obviously playing out because it's affecting people, it's affecting small businesses, it's affecting people who have jobs, it's affecting a lot of people, right? So I'm not for a moment do I downplay the severity of what's going on. It's also polarizing a lot of the community where you've got a number of people who believe in not vaccinating and not wearing masks versus those that do. And, so you've got those types of conversations going on as well. And I sense that in some quarters we're turning on each other, and that's concerning, and I'm seeing some of that where, look, everyone is great when things are great. Everyone, when things are going swimmingly, everyone is fine. It's when we have challenging moments, tough moments, that tends to bring the true character of people out. It tends to bubble to the surface. And, some people are handling this admirably, and looking at what they can do. And there are others who aren't, and then there's others who are, going totally against the organisation, the government, etc. And so it really is fascinating from a human behaviour, psychology, people watching point of view.
Oh, absolutely, Tony. Like some people saying, Dan Andrews has done a great job, lock us down straight away, it's all done. Then there's another lockdown. Gladys goes a bit slow on the lockdowns, and then all of a sudden it spreads like wildfire. But then previously she's been really good about having a light lockdown and all the cases reduced. She's God's gift to everybody. Anastasia, lockdown hard. Like in all these measures, like I guess from a political standpoint, the division is very interesting, like you said. And it's where we take our standpoint about our views and our values. And then not only what's going on for us, but what we're trying to get out for everyone else as well, Tony. Like, are we sitting on the pedestal? Are we preaching out to the masses to saying, well, you've got to do it my way? And this is where the angst comes in, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, it does, because we're a democracy and we believe in freedom, and we're a very fortunate country. And, to all of our, elders that have gone before us, they've got us into the position that we are. And so it's one thing, we take that for granted when we have our freedoms, and now, we don't have our freedom. For those of us that are being forced into lockdown, some people, the majority of people, are complying and following the orders, and there is some people who are, just cannot deal with it. Also, you've got a situation in Melbourne, and I can't relate, because Queensland's had a couple of light downs, and to be fair, we've been pretty had it pretty good comparatively. I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying comparatively in Queensland it's been pretty good, because Melbourne had a tough time of it last year, and obviously they're now starting to get into it again. And you guys in Sydney have had a really tough time of it over the last couple of months. So yeah, we take a lot of these things for granted, and when it's taken away, some people deal with it, accept it, get on with it, and others will kick and scream and resist. And like I said, it's a lot of people's true characters is bubbling to the surface.
Sean, Robert, and Tony, and many others, good morning to all you. David's also said good morning as well. Tony, in terms of the vortex, let's get right into it. Getting caught up in this COVID conversation, do we need to get out those frustrations, the anger, the upset that we are going through, the personal impact that it's having, the family impact that's having, the community impact that it's having? Do we need to get out those frustrations and the angst?
Oh, no, not necessarily, because everyone deals with these things differently. So that's such a broad and general statement. So for me, I'm actually doing a presentation on this later on this week. You're going to be at the same presentation, actually. And I'm calling it Thriving in Lockdown. It was originally, the title was called Coping with Lockdown, but I wanted to change it to Thriving in Lockdown. And so we don't want to just cope with lockdown. We want to thrive. We want to do something to get us moving forward, right? And so for me, the very first thing it starts with, Luke, is the meaning that we're placing on lockdown, because there are people in lockdown who are absolutely going gangbusters. Now, please don't misinterpret, and those who are watching from home, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not suggesting for a moment that lockdown is good, right? It's incredibly challenging. It's incredibly tough. I get it. I'm fighting for survival in my own business as well. My business is not immune to these sorts of things. But my point is this, that the meaning that we place on these things will then determine what we do next. So if we have a negative, defeated, angry, frustrated meaning, well, that's what's going to come next in your world. If you have a meaning of, well, it's not good, don't BS yourself, because it's not, but hey, what can I do about it? Well, that's very different, right? And so my view is the latter. My view is I don't for one moment sit here and think, well, isn't this just wonderful? Because it's not wonderful. But it's about, well, what do I do next? Because I have the ability to control that. And we talked about control the controllables last week. We devoted a whole episode to this. But the bit before that is the meaning that we're applying to this. Some people apply a meaning of grit, determination, let's get out there and make it happen. And others have a meaning of capitulation, negativity, sky caving
in. Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, a thought that comes to mind, Tony, is on a space where the frustration, anger, and upset, you're thinking about, what I'm hearing is you're talking about this over a long term or even a short term. But the initial idea of having that frustration, that anger really burst out, is that where you suggest people go to, or if they're really frustrated, better out than in?
Oh, of course you want to get because if you suppress things, what tends to happen is if you imagine you're suppressing something, eventually it's going to just go pop, right? It's going to explode, and it's going to be 100 times worse. So get stuff off your chest, and it's not about an anger side, but it's just get it off your chest, communicate. It's so powerful to talk to someone, and that's why I love what you do from a voluntary point of view with Lifeline. Obviously, I do it from a business point of view as well. You have conversations from a business point of view, but get stuff off your chest. It's so much better out than in. That's why the days, are you okay days and other were invented, because we want to have conversations around this stuff. We want to, quite often, what's the saying? A problem shared is a problem halved, right? And so it's about just getting things out there. It doesn't have to be in an angry way. And again, when you say angry, I'm interpreting, chairs flying everywhere and whatnot. It doesn't have to be in an angry way, but yeah, by all means, if that's your method of coping initially, then yes, get it off your chest if that works for you. But don't sit there and bottle things up.
Yeah, like Tony Gallagher said, do as I did and call it out, and talk with someone who helps reframe your beliefs. Yeah, and I guess a couple of aspects on that, what Tony just said is, one, to get it out, two, to actually sit there and dwell on it, three, for the other person who's coming into the framework to realize that, you may not be able to fix it or fix it straight away, whichever it might be, but you might be there to just listen, because people often need to get things out, and better to talk to someone else than just talk to the wall, talk to the mirror. So
yeah, absolutely. Although, can I say that now that we're a pet owning family, having a pet, quite often, if you haven't got someone to talk to, now, I have someone to talk to, but I mean, if you haven't got someone to talk to, then this is where pets are wonderful, and even though it's a one-way conversation, but just get things off your chest. But look, that's in the extreme cases where there's isolated people. But Tony Gallagher is a great example of someone who was incredibly vulnerable, put something up on Facebook, my goodness, so didn't reach out privately, blasted something out for the entire world to see. But the great thing about that is that then you took the lead with a gentle nudge from me to set up a Friday afternoon Zoom call, and I was fortunate enough to be able to dive in that for a few minutes on Friday and have a chat to you guys, and it was a whole lot of fun. And so I'd encourage others that if you're struggling, reach out to Luke. Luke will give you the Zoom number, and we'd love to have you on board and just kick around some thoughts and feelings on a Friday afternoon and try and help each other out.
All right, Tony Gallagher says the same, and I, in terms of pets, talking to your pets, he has that conversation with Mooch, and you see it. Other than away from COVID and all things that go on there, we do see a lot of single people, especially elderly people, actually have a little dog or little dogs or cats, whatever it might be, just as company. And I think there's been stats around that in the past, Tony, around how it has a longevity of life or better mental state around who you are, just to having that companionship.
All of the above, Luke, and you've got to feel for the elderly people. So I spent a lot of time working for a pharmaceutical business, and I know that dealing with pharmacies and pharmacists, the elderly people would look forward to going to the pharmacy for their scripts, obviously, but beyond that, for the companionship. Now, they're not getting an opportunity to do that because of the lockdown side of things. They're being stuck at home, and maybe family or friends or other support people are bringing their medications around. But that was a real outing for a lot of people. It was one of the things that a lot of the pharmacists were really challenged from a productivity point of view, because they wanted to get on with the job of doing whatever they do, but they're also conscious that Ethel or Gertrude or whoever wanted to sit there and have a chat, because it was an absolute highlight of their week or their fortnight. And these are things that go unnoticed generally, but they're so critical.
Yeah, look, just going up to the local coffee shop each day for people, like, I guess one, like I think about it for me, is the escape from work for a little bit of time, and, clearing your head, getting out of that state, then communicating with other people, especially if you're alone, that can have a, even if it's not coffee for you, that it might be a walk around the block. And then just think about these other ways. So generally, Tony, on the idea of getting out that frustration, anger, and upset, of one is, like you said, not suppressing it and actually getting it out there, sharing some ideas with other people, and just being mindful of not only like the other person that you are talking to as well. It's a case of being kind in the way, like it's not all about you. Other people are experiencing things like that. Even if you're in that state of like it's just negative, and things aren't going well for you, maybe the other person you're speaking to has the same point of view. But I guess the big thing is we want people to reach out, right? We want people to talk.
Well, we want people to talk. The only caveat that I'd say to that, Luke, is that be careful of who you're talking to. So what do I mean by that? Misery loves company, right? So, you could have a conversation with someone who is maybe feeling worse than you, and you could walk away from that conversation feeling like absolute crap. right? So misery loves company, and this happens all the time. We talk about from a success point of view, whether it be personal success or professional success, around, you are the average of your 5 closest people. So by all means, get out there and find someone that you communicate to. But if that someone is going to be a negative Nelly and going to bring you down and make you worse, then you've got a decision to make. Is that the right thing to be doing? Because misery does love company, and misery's got a lot of company right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter Trong, good to see you. Says, good morning, boys. Second point we want to focus on is, how long do you stay in that vortex state? The vortex state of being caught up in that COVID conversation. I've had a couple of Zooms over the last couple of days, and people will say all the things that they're not able to do, or they're not able to experience, or the frustrations on this or that, or what people are doing out there and what is actually happening. I look at the news and see what I can and can't do around that, and see where the direction of things that are heading, but staying in that state of the vortex. And I've been guilty right at the start, Tony, of when initially we had the first lockdown back in March in 2020, of sitting there watching the news day in, day out, and just and feeling that negative stance about what's going on, and not really focusing on what I can thrive in and do with my business and do with myself personally, and what opportunities I can take from this experience, but rather stay in that vortex state, the danger of that, and what we can do about it.
So if you go back to when this all started, it was new, it was scary, there was a whole lot of uncertainty. And so, it's about being kind to yourself, because I too was getting caught up in, oh my gosh, what's all this mean? And we've never had something like this before, right? So it was such a new thing. Here we are some 18 months on, and it's very different. A lot of people are now, come on, let's just get on with stuff, right? So, certainly don't beat yourself up for what happened back then. Look, the key to that, the piece that you're just saying there, is gratitude. Now go back to the 2 questions that I ask myself daily, that I encourage everyone to ask themselves daily. They're free. You get it from me for free. You're here every Sunday. What went well? What can I do different? And what you just talked about there, where people will focus on all the things that they can't do, all the things that have gone wrong, all the things that are falling over. The opportunity is to flip that around. The opportunity is to think about, what can I do? Things within my control and out of my control. Out of my control, Queensland government, and let me talk about Queensland. Queensland government said, South East Queensland said, we're in a lockdown. I can't do anything about it. I can't change that decision. Now, I can sit here and dwell on it. I can resist it and go and walk the streets and protest. Or I can think about, well, what can I do now? And what can I do? And how do I make this shitty, terrible situation, how do I make it work for me moving forward? So it's about being grateful for the things that we have. And unfortunately, the majority of people that I meet focus on what they can't have, what they don't have, as opposed to what they do. And when you focus on what you do, then all of a sudden the world looks so much brighter, so much happier, even in your darkest hour.
Yeah, it actually makes me think about, what is it teaching us, and both as a community and for ourselves personally? What is it teaching ourselves about us and how we react and how we play out that certain situation? If you go back to, think about it in terms of investing. When you've done good things, when you've done bad things in terms of investing, have you gone and been greedy and stretched for that money and taken higher risk because you want that instant gratification of money in your bank account? So at different times, like with COVID and with lockdowns and with vaccinations, with investing, whatever it might be for you, is thinking about, what kind of lessons is this teaching us when we are staying in a vortex, when we are reacting, when we are defensive about situations, how quickly we, get rolled up about things, how quickly we can come down from that anger state, that frustration state, all these things, and what it's teaching us, Tony.
Well, one of the things is, again, when you talk about, at the end of the day, what can I do differently? If you feel you're in a frustrated or an angry state, ask yourself, how is this serving you? How is it actually serving you by being frustrated, angry, mad? Or how is that actually serving you, right? And you want to challenge yourself on that. Now, if it's not serving you, and the chances are that it's not, then what can I do differently? Right? What can I do differently? What's the opportunity that I'm missing out on because I'm spending my time being angry, having heightened emotions, whatever it might be. What am I actually missing out on? And it's about raising all this to your own awareness. All this is about getting conscious awareness, because when you have conscious awareness of what's going on and how you're behaving, now you have a choice. Right? When a lot of this happens automatically on your autopilot, on your subconscious, we don't actually have a choice, because something happens, an event happens, and you trigger and you do something. And it mightn't be a day or half a day or whatever before you go, oh my God, I was acting like an ass, or whatever it might be. It's about elevating your conscious awareness. And you do that by asking those two questions that I talk about regularly. Now that you're aware of something, now you have a choice. Do I act on that and improve and challenge myself? Or do I say, you know what, no, I'm really happy or comfortable that I'm acting like an ass? And either way, it's a choice. So change, there's a formula for change. We've talked about it here before, and that is awareness plus action equals change. First, you've got to be aware. A lot of things we do, we're not aware. Second, we've got to actually go, well, now that I've thought about that and I've thought about the opportunities that I've lost, what am I going to do different? What are the things that I can do different to get me to move in a forward direction? Because I don't want to feel like shit, like I am. I want to, and hey, let me say that I have felt like shit over many, many, many times. This is not that I don't. I am a human as well, but it's about challenging myself.
Are you sure, Tony? Are you sure?
100% I am, absolutely. So it's about recognizing that I too go through these things, but it's challenging myself to go, well, what can I do different? And I suppose that's the key difference for me, is I'm fortunate that I've got a lot of strategies and tools that not only do I use on my clients, but I have to use on myself as well.
Okay, think about solutions now. Tony, how can we do it better for ourselves in the short term and the long term?
Yep. So the first thing is go back to what I talked about earlier, which is the meaning. So really understand what's the meaning that you're placing on all this. And this is the self-awareness piece. So how meaning works is that there's an event that happens. In this case, it's COVID-19, based on our values, our past, our memories, our beliefs. We will then put a meaning on that. And where I'm going with this is that the most common example is the glass half full, glass half empty. Some people will look at it as being optimistic. Others will look at it as being pessimistic. Same glass, same amount of water, but two people will come at it from a very, very different angle. So it's what meaning am I placing on that? Then recognizing that based on the meaning, it's going to affect my state of mind. When it affects my state of mind, it's going to affect my physiology. What does that mean? It's going to be in how I act. And ultimately, then it's how I respond and conduct myself. So recognize that it all starts with the meaning, and we all can change the meaning in a heartbeat. We can literally change the meaning in a heartbeat should we choose to do so. And when you change the meaning, then all of a sudden the rest will flow. So that's the first thing that you can do. The other, as I said before, is if you find yourself dwelling, challenge yourself. Why am I dwelling? What am I dwelling on? How is this serving me? Right, ask those few questions. Then what you want to talk about is, what's the opportunity cost? What am I missing out on by dwelling and kicking the cat or whatever it might be? What am I missing out on? And then it's about, well, gosh, wowee, I hadn't thought of that. Now what am I going to do next? So there are a couple of key things, Luke, that people can take away, very practical things. The third one, let me throw it in there again. Ask yourself every day, what's going well and what can I do different? Do that all the time, because that's going to elevate the awareness, so your conscious awareness of how you act, how you behave, how you respond.
I saw a social media post the other day about a guy saying, if you want to take your focus away from something else, do one simple thing. Try and focus on one thing and make sure that your eyeballs don't move.
I love it.
That idea is the absolute concentration on the present, not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future, not considering anything else except the eyeballs.
Well, the other one is breathing. So breathing, and this is all about getting mindful, as you said, being right in the present. Because what happens is, when we look too far into the future, then we can get anxious. Right? And how often do we look into the future at something and we get anxious about something, but that something never happens, and it happens all the time. Right? We get all worked up about something going to happen. It's going to fall over. This is going to happen. The sky's going to cave in, whatever it might be, and it doesn't happen. Conversely, when we look too far behind us, backwards, then that leads to depression, right? And so we get very depressed around missed opportunities, around things that went wrong, right? So it's about getting into the present state, looking at your eyeballs, and think it's a terrific one, right? And concentrating on something. But the other one is breathing, concentrating on your breathing right here, right now. in through your nose and out through your mouth. And that gets you incredibly centered and incredibly present so that you can focus on what's in front of you, like right now, as opposed to worrying about something that's into the future or getting upset about something that has already happened.
Yeah, I'm always interested. I had a conversation the last couple of days around having thoughts about the future and past lockdown, what's going to happen, what kind of trips can you go on, what kind of lunches can you go to, what kind of social events can you actually attend, all these things. We actually, Tony, don't really know what's going to happen, right? There wasn't a state of for Melbourne to be in now the 6th or 7th lockdown, whatever they are, the 84th lockdown that they're going through. It wasn't a case of Sydney seeing that an extension is going to come through until August. We kind of thought that it'll all end in July. Now they're talking about maybe towards the end of the year. And then for Queensland, not really having a sense that anything was that dramatic. And then a case of just getting constant extensions. Are we in a situation where we need, like for individually, we need the presence, or is it a case for some people, they need to have something to look forward to, even if the possibilities is really uncertain?
Well, we all need something to look forward to, Luke. It's called purpose. It's called something in front of us. Now, not everyone does it, but it's called purpose, right? You want to have something into the future. Now, in regards to what you're saying there, is the uncertain bit is when will things get back to whatever the new normal will be? Who knows? But that still doesn't stop us from having something into the future. Why not think about the places that you'd like to visit? Why not think about the holidays, the fun times, the times at the beach, whatever is your thing? But why not sit there and think about it? Now, whilst, yes, I accept that you can't go and book it because of the uncertainty, but gee whiz, wouldn't it be nice to start to think about, when things open up, I'd love to go and see, that particular Ayers Rock or that waterfall or that country or, whatever it might be. But it's about having something in front of you to look forward to, because what we tend to do in front of us is we think about anxious things. And what if this goes wrong? And what if I lose my money? And what if my job, blah, 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 blah. We're thinking about all these negative things in front of us and these things that are causing us to have anxiety, high levels of anxiety, versus, wow, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but gee whiz, I'm really looking forward to seeing that place. Why not use some of this downtime to research a lovely part of Australia that you haven't been before, and when things were allowed out, take the family away, right? So again, there's an element of uncertainty, but you can sit there and do nothing and go, well, I'm not going to book anything until I'm certain. Or you could start to dream a little, because we're going to get through this, right? So just there's a newsworthy moment. We'll get through this. Right, at some stage. I don't know when, I'm not Nostradamus, but we will get through it. And I don't know what the world will look like, but there's going to be opportunities for us to do fun things again, joyous things again, and why not start to think about that?
Just to challenge that idea that you just put forward, sure. We're just talking about being present, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we're talking about looking forward to something.
Yep.
Are we in that present state of flow, or are we constantly looking forward to things?
But there's two things there, right? So it's a bit like, Gary Vee talks about the macro patience and the micro, speed, right? And so it's the same there again. It's about, there's nothing wrong with having something. In fact, I would argue it's the great thing to do to have something in front of you to look forward to, that inspires you, that fulfills you. It's called a goal. Excuse me. In regards to looking forward, I talk about from an anxiety point of view, that's people focusing on things going wrong. That's people focusing on not being able to get out, being in lockdown for 4 months, perhaps their job's at risk, perhaps their business is going to go down the tubes, all those types of things. That's what people, I'm not saying focus on those things. What I'm saying is focus on the happy stuff, focus on where's your happy place. That's into the future, but then right here, right now, when you find yourself drifting off into anxiety, then focus on your breathing, focus on your eyeballs, focus on what you're doing right now, focus on this present moment, so you can have two speeds.
Interesting comment from Peter. He said, can't wait to travel again. And when we do, it will be with more appreciation.
Of course.
Interesting.
Yeah, because we've had something taken away. Prior to March of 2020, I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams thought that they wouldn't be able to go outside of 5 kilometres from their home. It's never happened. right? Particularly people of our age, we've never had to go through difficulties, right? And so for us, this is our first version of a difficulty. It's incredibly difficult. I'm not sitting here pretending that it's not, but we're going to have an appreciation, because now I'd like to think we do. But what will typically happen,
With
Luke,
more appreciation.
Yeah, but what will typically happen is people will say that, but they'll drift back into life as normal. And that's not having a go at Peter, because I know Peter, and I'm sure he will be someone who'll stay true to that and be grateful and have appreciation.
Are you sure, Peter?
But I'm saying, no, I believe he will. But I'm saying, generally speaking, society will talk about having a level of appreciation. We'll talk about having a level of gratitude, but it'll just drift back into normal.
That's what I really want to challenge. I guess when we talk about having more appreciation, being more grateful, or showing more kindness, all these things, and then slowly we drift back into the status quo of what we are, and the negative aspects of life, and all these frustrations and so forth. And I really, when I hear things like that, when I was like, I'm going to show more gratitude and more appreciation, more kindness. Well, why don't you just do that now? Like, why aren't we grateful and appreciative for what we've got and where we are right now, even if we are in a lockdown sort of situation? Like, that's where, and it is difficult, Tony. Don't get me wrong. There's people that are, like, I'm hearing constantly, that are, looking to shut down their businesses, or thinking about other ways they can do things, and all the frustrations, and trying to help their staff and trying to help their business. And as an employee, if they're not working, and I know I was in the travel industry previously, you walk past and you see the flight centers that are closed, and the other travel agents that are closed, and things like that, and have been for over a year. So that's where I go about more. We're going to feel more appreciation and be more grateful. Are we?
Gratitude is an attitude, and it's an attitude of, I said it before. I said, let's start to focus on right now the things that we can do, the things that we have got, as opposed to things that we can't do and the things that we haven't got. And so it's an attitude, and I'm a massive believer in the law of attraction. And what it means to me is that what you put out to the world comes back to you. And so for me, I got so much stuff going wrong at the moment across numerous areas. There's too many to mention. But the point is that I always find some things to be grateful for, some things to be happy for. In amongst all the stuff that's going on, there is always, I guarantee everyone, there is always something that you can be grateful for, something that you can be happy for in your life, in your business, in your family, whatever it might be. And it's about fixate on that, because law of attraction says what you put out to the world will come back to you. So if I put negativity and frustration out to the world, well, that's going to come back and slap me in the face. Conversely, when I put gratitude, appreciation, love, happiness out to the world, well, that's what comes back to me. So that's my belief. I'm happy for people to challenge me on it, but it's a case of, gratitude is an attitude.
Tony loves the challenge. This is why, I kind of think about the whole thing about looking forward, Tony, as opposed to being present and being in flow. So, maybe something that everyone can have a think about for themselves and how that works for them. And I don't know, the setting expectations sometimes, maybe it is the looking forward rather than the expectations, but I do get a sense about whether that being present and being in the state of flow is that little bit higher level of thinking and feeling in our lives, that if certain situations do happen, that we will stay in that sense of presence and flow, rather than that sense of what we're looking to achieve or what we're trying to set out for ourselves.
Well, yeah, but go back to the point I said, you can still have two speeds, right? So you can still have the speed of self-awareness right now. And I preach the fact that people should be asking themselves two questions every day. I've preached it for years. I will always preach it, right? So that's about self-awareness. That's about elevating your own conscious awareness of what's working well for you and what you can improve on. Right, but you can have that focus, but then you can still also have a focus of something great that's in front of you to think about, to draw you towards it. But also, Luke, from a future point of view, you can focus on something negative as well. right? And what you think about expands. And so you can sit there and choose to focus on the good stuff and feel good and get the endorphins racing around the body, or you can fixate on a disastrous outcome, a nightmare of an outcome, and guess what? You're going to feel very, very different. And go back to what I said before around the whole external event, meaning, state of mind, physiology, and then the results. So you can place whatever meaning you want on the future. It's the future, right? You can look at it positively through, optimistic eyes, or you can look at it negatively and through pessimistic eyes. The choice is entirely each and every individual's.
Peter says, grateful to be alive and living in the best country on earth. I second that. I've traveled a lot around the world. Jesus, Australia, we do it well. Tony, just to wrap up today, we have been talking about getting caught up in the vortex of COVID conversations, and these can be any conversation that you have. So if you can relate that back to yourself, guys, in terms of what's going on for you, think about getting in that vortex, getting in that dwell, and then how that then affects you and changes you for the day, for the week, for the month. And, if that's perpetuating as well in many conversations that you do have, and that kind of spreads, rather than getting into a state where you're thinking at that high level, you're thinking about that thrive, like Tony said. So it's a great one that we have spoken about this morning. Really enjoyed it, Tony. And hopefully it's provided some insight and ideas around how people are going to think a little bit differently this week.
Look, absolutely. And challenge your meaning, but then also...
challenge your hands.
challenge your hands. I'm just practicing breakdancing. It's going to be in the 2032 Olympics, so look out for that. I've got the cardboard out. I've been doing the backspins and all that, backflips, all that stuff. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, I was going to talk about challenge the change of meaning, but then also be grateful for the stuff you've got, because we've got a lot of, honestly, I'm here. Yes, I'm outside of my house, but it's an awesome day. I am allowed to get out and about. Like I said, I could sit here and fixate on all the things that are going wrong, and there are quite a number of them in my life, in my businesses at the moment. But you know what? There's a time and a place to deal with those things, but I also spend a lot of my time on thinking about what is it that I do have, and what's the great things that I do have. And we all have great things, and I'd encourage you all to think about the wonderful things that you've got, because you got heaps. Big
shout out to Sean Hayes. He's just come on. I do a little bit of a video each and every day and post it up on Facebook about, mindset ideas and thoughts that I put out there each and every day. He shares a lot of the views that he has out there at Coogee Beach in Sydney, for those that don't know. And, stunning views in the morning. Really just being grateful for the day of getting out of bed. And it's good to share, that idea. So share as much. When people are putting things out on social media, maybe you can share a little bit about what's going on for you. And having that return of comment or photos or whatever it might be shows that there are some really grateful people and great humans in the world.
Oh, there's heaps of them. They're everywhere. There's great. Again, this is a seek and you will find. If you want to find someone to have a negative conversation with around COVID-19, you'll find them. They're everywhere. There's heaps of them. Okay, but if you want to find great humans, positive humans, grateful humans, who are encouraging, supporting, they're everywhere too, right? So seek and you shall find, and I know what I'm seeking, and it's the latter. It's those people that are going to help lift me up and inspire me to be a better version today of myself than I was yesterday.
That's why I'm challenging Tony each and every Sunday morning here on the Sunday Mindset Session. Poor guy, and poor people. I absolutely love it. Sean says, morning sports fans, going to watch the repeat later. Rain Disturbed play today. And watching two great humans right here, says Peter. Thank you so much. So kind. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully have a great day wherever you are. Enjoy it, live it, laugh it, and absolutely love it. Thanks, Tony.